Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Drums and Drams. My name is Cameron, and today we have another episode of Then and Now. Now, I have traditionally focused my reviews of Dusties and my comparisons between old and new bottlings on Scotch, but today we are taking a slight detour into the land of bourbon to check out how Elijah Craig Small Batch has progressed over the last 4 to 5 years. So with that said, I am going to quickly dedicate this episode to my friend here in Columbus, Ohio, Josh Horn, who was so kind as to give me a sample of his Elijah Craig Small Batch from sometime around 2016. It was right after the Small Batch lost the 12-year age statement, went NAS, and then, shortly after, we transitioned to this new bottling. So I was excited that he pulled this out. He teased me with a little bit and offered me a sample. Happily obliged and said that I would make a video about it. So here we are. I have sampled this older Elijah Craig one other time on a live stream the other night with a bunch of people on Scott's channel at My Bourbon Journey. I've got to say, I don't really remember how it tasted. So I left enough to do this review today for all of you in a more formal and sober format. So let's go ahead and get right to it. I'm not going to do any real history about this. There are plenty of articles that you can look up out there about Elijah Craig losing the 12-year age statement, going NAS around this time. People were not thrilled about that, as you might imagine. Now, the good thing is Elijah Craig does still have a 12-year-old age statement on the barrel-proof releases. And while those are sometimes hard to find, sometimes, it depends on where you live, they can be a little easier to find. That's a great thing, but it is kind of a drag that the small batch product lost the age statement. With the bourbon boom and how the market is currently going right now, we probably shouldn't expect that to return anytime soon, I wouldn't think. Although it was nice when Knob Creek brought back the 9-year-old age statement on their small batch product. So let me finish getting my pours ready here for all of you, and we can check out how the heck Elijah Craig has advanced or not advanced over the last couple of years. Let's go ahead and start with today's bottling of Elijah Craig Small Batch. I think this was purchased in 2020, sometime towards the middle of the year in the summer. So there's a 4 to 5 year difference between these two bottles that I'm tasting today. All right, so it's that lovely Heaven Hill Elijah Craig Small Batch nose that, so many of us know and love and have as our everyday sipper, honestly. It's that beautiful blend of barrel char with nice rich caramels, that butterscotch type note. A little bit of vanilla, maybe some cherry notes in there, not too fruity, more down the middle, caramels, vanillas, straight up bourbon profile, but it's really great. And that barrel char note for me and that oak presence has always kind of separated this from the pack, especially in that $28 to $32 price range. You get to the palate, first thing that hits me is that peanut note that so much of the Heaven Hill products have. It really transitions nicely into those butterscotch and caramel flavors. And as we get into the back palate, into the finish, I get that cherry note, that dark cherry. Starting to get a little bit of woodiness, a little bit of oak, a little bit of funk in there. So it's a great product at this price point. The mouthfeel, kind of medium. It's not too viscous or anything like that, and you wouldn't expect it to be at 94 proof. So a really great entry-level sipper here. Solid product from Elijah Craig, but I'm curious now to see how this stacks up to the older bottling, if that's significantly better or not. I wish I had a 12-year-old age-stated version of that for all of you. I don't have one right now, but in the event that I get a sample someday in the future, I will be sure to post a video of sort of a 3-way comparison here between all of these different batches. All right, so let's go ahead and move on now to the older bottling, non-age stated Elijah Craig Small Batch from 2016-ish. Oh yeah, a little bit richer there on the nose. Let me do a side-by-side. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. It makes the current day bottling of Elijah Craig Small Batch just smell thin and watery. This thing, yeah, a teeny tiny bit of funk, of like bottle funk, dusty funk, but nothing that you would pick up on if you haven't tried a dusty, I don't think. Like, you got to be really attuned to that kind of flavor. Otherwise, this to me would just get kind of lost in the mix in that more rich flavor profile that this one has. But I can detect a little bit of that dusty funk. The nuttiness is still in here and still present, but it's not that brittle peanut shell note that you get on a lot of Heaven Hills products today. It's more full and rounded out and less abrasive, if I'm being honest with you. Oh, I think there's like still some dark cherry in this old bottling, but it must just be the caramel and the butterscotch that is so much denser and more rich in here. I'm sure when I get to the palate, I'll be able to kind of like pick this thing apart and figure it out a little bit more. Oh, and it just smells older. I mean, I would expect that. I would expect they probably lost the age statement, but we're still using maybe older stocks than they are today. Just has more oak presence, a deeper, richer thing going on. So let's taste this on the palate and see what we get. Cheers. There's a ton. Oh my God, there's a ton of like Luxardo dark cherry notes in here that mingle in with an insanely rich amount of oak and butterscotch. Again, keep this in mind. Keep the comparison in mind here. I'm not saying this is the greatest thing ever. I'm just saying compared to today's small batch, it's a night and day difference right now. The oak on the back end now feels like a legitimately aged bourbon. It doesn't feel rushed. It's heavy. It's pretty drying in some ways, but there's still so much spice lingering in the back. It's really pleasant. There's some leather notes in here too that you do not get from today's current bottling of small batch. Yeah, and there's also a little bit of a simple syrup note as I go back to the nose. Not in a cheap or a light way, just in a nice, dense, syrupy, sweet kind of way. All right, let me go side by side here just a little bit. Yeah. When you go to the current bottling now, it almost smells like a cheap Jim Beam product to me. It makes it smell like, take this with a grain of salt, it makes it smell like, in this comparison, that this is like Yellowstone Select or something. As opposed to, Elijah Craig Small Batch, which I actually tend to like, but maybe the bar is just lower nowadays. Oh my goodness, it's just richer. It's just sweeter, richer, heavier, oakier. It's a more amplified version. And the proof, I believe, is the same. I don't think that proof ever changed between these bottlings. So it just feels like you stripped out 25% of the flavor of the older bottlings in today's small batch. I hate to say it. And I've always wondered, when I taste these Dusties, this not even being a Dusty really, I mean, it's like a couple years old. When you taste Dusties, you always wonder, is that flavor profile, is that attention to detail and that level of quality ever going to return? I don't know the answer to that. I hope so. I hope this is a product of the bourbon bubble and people maybe cutting corners now that are planning on not cutting them later. Let's cross our fingers for that. That doesn't sound like a smart business decision. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just tend to love these older bottlings. They are richer. Not sure about the chill filtration here. This doesn't taste chill filtered to me. It doesn't feel chill filtered on the palate. If it is, then damn. The products going in here, the process that's going on is just better than nowadays. So we do one final comparison, starting with today's current bottling on the palate. Really thin. It's the spice is more aggressive, at least on that sip. The baking spice component of Elijah Craig Small Batch is more aggressive there, which sort of punches you in the face up front. And it means that the development in the mid palate, the explosion of sweet and rich and heavy flavors, doesn't have to be there as much because there's enough spice to kind of cover that up and mask the fact that the mid palate experience is not great. Then you get into the back palate. The finish is nice. The oak presence is nice again. There's that barrel char note, etc., etc. But it feels concocted. It feels measured, like they want to trick you a little bit, especially when you put it next to this thing. Oh, so rich and sweet and cherry and all of that. All right, last sip. What else is there to say, The cherry, the fruitiness is incredible. It's so dark, so rich. The oak kicks in pretty soon. You don't have to wait to the finish. The oak kicks in mid palate into the back palate, and it is so enjoyable and balanced. I need to get some bottles of these things. These older Elijah Craigs are absolutely incredible. I was hanging out with Jason from the Mash and Drum just the other day, and I tried the 139.4 proof Elijah Craig barrel proof release. It might be B516. And again, only a couple of years old, but I have never tasted a bourbon like that with that old school funk on there, that level of proof, the incredible balance throughout the entire experience. So these older Elijah Craigs are going to continue going away, and I think I might have to be on the hunt for some of these because they're just so damn good. But I think that's all I have today. Again, I want to shout out my friend Josh here in Columbus. Thank you for getting me a sample of this. I've got a couple of samples up my sleeve for you, some things that we need to swap. But until next time, I think I'm good here. I'm going to tell you all the YouTube things now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit me up, send me an email. Description has my email below, drumsanddrams@gmail.com. Let me know if you want to send in any samples, trade samples, all that good stuff. Although I'm getting so many samples nowadays, which feels weird to say already, let me know if there's anything you'd like me to review on the channel. Find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, all those good things. But until next time, I will see you later here on Drums and Drams. I'm going to end with one final sip of this amazing old bottling of Elijah Craig Small Batch. Cheers, everybody.